In this video, we will create a simple GreenSock twin or GSAP twin to fade the current page out and fade the new page in. So simple GSAP twin that we are using with Barba.js. We will start by defining the animation enter. We want to fade in the incoming container. And for that we will use GSAP from twin. So we want to animate it from opacity 0. We'll target the container that we will pass into this function. And we're animating it from auto alpha 0. Set the duration to 2 seconds. And we will pass in a container that will be the page coming into view. In the second function, we'll call it animation leave. And we want to, when we're leaving, we want to animate the container to auto alpha 0. So we are using from twin in the animation enter and to twin in the animation leave. Now we can set up Barba with transitions. And inside of the array, we will create the first transition and we'll use the once hook to play this transition on the first page load, on the initial page load. And at that moment, we want to play the animation enter. Okay, we need to pass in the right container. And when the page loads, the next container is what's coming into view. So we want to get it out of the data, and next.container will give us the DOM element that we want to fade in. If we save this and view it in a browser, we should see a fade-in effect on the page load. Here it is. And this affects every other page. Okay, so GSAP is animating from 0 to opacity 1 and setting the visibility to the correct value as well. So that's a shorthand to animate opacity and visibility at the same time. And then we can use clear props on this twin just to clean up the styles, the inline styles from the DOM element. Okay, so at the end of the twin, it's removed from the DOM, the styles. And as I said, this affects every page that calls this JavaScript file because we haven't defined any rules. Okay, let's set the ease also to none, just to make it nice and linear, because we are just fading in and fading out. And let's do the same thing on the animation leave as well. Okay, so now when we have the once, we can also define the other two hooks. The first one would be leave. We want to animate when the page is leaving. We'll get the current container out of the data. It will animate it out. So we'll use the animation leave function. And the animation enter, for now, we'll use exactly the same one as in the once. Okay. So once and enter are exactly the same. And the leave is using the animation leave. To help us a little bit with debugging, let's put few console logs inside of the leave and inside of the enter as well, just so we know when this piece of code is executed on the page load or when we're going from page to page. So we've got leaving and entering console logs. So let's go to the DevTools, clean it up. And when we click on a link, you see leaving and entering being logged almost at the same time. Okay, so we don't actually see the leaving animation, which doesn't look good, and that's not what we want. We want to make sure that the entering animation does not happen at the same time. We want to delay it. We need to make sure that we wait for the animation leave to finish before the enter animation plays. Okay, so this is very important, and now we will need to fix it. Let's go to the Barba docs, to the hooks section, and underneath we'll see all the possible options. How can we define the leave animation? And as you can see, there's many different ways how to do it. We could define it as an arrow function. We could use the new promise. We could use the this.async or async away. There's multiple ways how to do it. So let's firstly try to set a little callback onto our twin, and when it's done, the entering animation will play. Okay, so if we follow this example, we need to define const done inside of our leave hook. Okay, and now we need to pass this in to our animation leave. In our animation leave, we need to accept it, and when the twin is complete, so on complete, we will use arrow function and execute the done. Okay, so that's how we are passing it in, and on complete of this twin, this animation will fire this, which will make sure that the enter will be played after that. Okay, so let's do that. Let's see if we have the console logs staggered and if we have a delay before we are entering, which should match the duration of the animation leave. So let's go to a browser, refresh it, and clean it up. Now when I go to architecture, we see the fade out and the entering happens after 2 seconds. Okay, so now we have it staggered. We firstly animating out, then we animating in. That's exactly what we wanted. So this is one method how to do it, but the other one is even easier. There's less code. If we just make the leave an arrow function, then we don't have to create a constant done on complete as well. I think having it as arrow function is the shortest code. So let's do that. Let's remove the on complete. Remove the done and make this as an arrow function. We'll do exactly the same trick. Let's do it this way. Now we are using it as arrow function, which will do the same thing. It will wait for the animation leave to finish before executing the enter. Okay, so let's do that. Save it. View it in the browser, and we should see exactly the same functionality, no change. We should see after 2 seconds, firstly animating out and then animating in. Okay, so here it is. Of course, I've removed the console log, so we don't see the leaving console, but the animation exactly works exactly the way we want it. We firstly animating out and then animating the new page in. Now let's recap what we've done in this video. We've created 2 arrow functions that are returning simple GSAP twin. The animation enter returns twin that animates the container from invisible to opacity 1, and the animation leave returns the opposite transition, where we are animating the current container into auto alpha 0. So these are the 2 twins that we are running inside of the right hooks of Barba. Inside of one, so on the page load, we are animating using the animation enter and animating in or fading in the next container, the initial page load container. Inside of the leave, we are passing the current page that is currently visible. We want to fade it out before we use the enter hook to fade the new page in, where we were using the same animation enter. Okay, so that's how it works. And at the end of it, we had to make the leave an arrow function to make it async function for us to be able to wait for the enter animation before we animating, before we playing it. We want to make sure that the current page is faded out, and then we fading in the new page. Okay, so hope that makes sense how we've set up this simple GSAP twin with Barba transition.